Welcome, everyone, to this edition of Teed Up Grand Strand. I'm your host, Dave Walker, the golf director here at the Golf Director, with Shan Coughlin. We're happy to welcome back Tom Plankers for another lesson on the replica holes at the World Tour Golf Links. Which holes are we going to learn about today, Tom?
Well, today we're going to talk about, we just finished watching the men's U.S. Open, and this week we have the ladies' U.S. Open, so I thought I'd bring a hole that we took from the Olympic Club, which has hosted quite a few U.S. Opens, and some very interesting history about the club itself and the golf course itself.
Great.
And I just want to start before you get into the history. Let's remind everyone about World Tour. It is a really unique design in that it replicated 19 famous holes from around the world, and I'm just amazed at the level of detail that went into that. Just give everyone a quick reminder of how the golf course was created.
Oh, yes. It was created by Mel Graham, and he was inspired by the 19th hole. We have 19. I know we're supposed to have 18, but we have 19. And it is become very, very popular. People, especially during Augusta week, people want to come out and play Amen Corner. They want to play number 16. During the Open, they wanted to see what Pinehurst number 16 was all about, so we came out and played that. The TPC course, that when they play the Players Club, we have the replica, the par 3. And so you can get a great history lesson, play some fantastic golf, and enjoy. The golf course is impeccable. I mean,
Absolutely. It's always been one of my favorites.
It's just impeccable. Thank you.
You can get a taste of all the majors on one golf course.
Absolutely.
You can. That's
great
why
golf.
it's named the Championship and the Open. That's where they played the championships and the Opens.
Absolutely.
But today we're going to talk about one of the holes there, which is the 7th hole at Olympic Club. Or the 14th hole at Olympic Club and the 7th hole at World Tour.
Okay.
Which, again, they've hosted quite a few U.S. Opens. Our 7th hole out there plays par 4, just like the Olympic Club of number 14. It's 419 yards, exactly like it is out in San Francisco. You don't hear much about the Olympic Club out here on the East Coast. You really don't, because it is so far west, and you don't get a lot of that player that comes from the West Coast to play the East Coast.
Right.
So it is kind of an oddity, but you get to watch the participants and the people who play the golf course look at the plaque, read it, and see some of the history behind it, and then realize how impressive this hole really is.
Yeah, I love that about the course. Yeah. The history is
really
history lessons on each tee box.
Yeah. It's a replica, just like it was inspired by, like I said, the 14th hole. You hit from a tee shot, hit up the hill. There's a plateau up there, but if you miss the little plateau, then it's a very severe slope to the left down toward the rough. So you could hit a shot into the hill and end up maybe in the rough.
Yeah, we experienced that firsthand. So
yes,
but beautiful hole.
One thing I'll tell you a little bit about the club itself, which is I don't think a lot of people realize about the Olympic Club. It started in 1860, and it had over 5,000 members.
Wow!
And in that club, there was 19 people who represented different areas of sports. So there was 19 sports that were represented by the membership alone.
Oh, wow.
The club was very interesting in its membership. It had William Randolph Hearst, who was in control and still has the Hearst family with the San Francisco Examiner. But he was very unsuccessful trying to run for the board. He never made the board. Mainly because back then he wasn't an athlete.
Oh,
that's
okay.
But he was a businessman.
He was a very big businessman. Very big. But back then they were big in the athletes, being on the board and this sort of thing. A couple of the board members who people probably don't even remember, but who sat on the board, very influential on the board, was a gentleman called Gentleman Jim Colbert.
Right.
Heavyweight championship of the world back in 1892.
Yeah.
Was a gentleman also that represented the board. His name was Philo Jacobson. Well, back then, he was the championship rifle shooter of the world. And he was a member of the club.
Good eye-hand coordination.
So, yeah, it's kind of interesting, the people who were members of this club.
It is. I didn't
Absolutely.
realize that.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. They felt back then that they needed a place for the Olympians and the champions to have their own clubhouse. So what they did, they broke ground in San Francisco, obviously, in April 8th of 1891. And they opened their clubhouse in 1893. But in April of 1906, something very catastrophic happened, which I think everyone kind of remembers, which is the Great San Francisco earthquake.
Yes.
And when that occurred, it completely destroyed the club completely, along with the rest of San Francisco at the same time.
Wow.
But back then, in June of 1912, what they did was they reopened, made it bigger, better. They had the best fitness center probably in the country. They also had things such as swimming pools, and they also went to the extent of bringing a swimming pool in and pumped it full of seawater, so you'd be swimming in salt water too, because some of these people were in marathons and decathlons and
That's
stuff of this
interesting.
nature. So they
Right.
catered to a lot
The
of
athletes,
Right.
yes.
The club also sent, it was kind of interesting, it was 23 of its members to the Olympics in Paris. That's the type of
Wow.
club they had back then.
Wow.
But anyway, they finally decided they got into golf. Okay, and
Since
it
it's a golf course, right?
it was a golf course.
Absolutely.
So in 1918, they got into golf. They assumed control and operation of a course that was kind of financially destitute, and it was called the Lakeside Golf Club. And they took it over. And to this day, it's still the Lakeside Golf Club. And they purchased it, and when they did purchase it, they also went ahead and purchased enough land to build 2 more golf courses on it. So they had the lake side, another lakeside, and then they had the ocean course. But in the winter of 1925 and 1926, they had a horrific storm come up, and it wiped out one of the not the original lake course, but the new lake course. So they just stuck with the two of them. The club also has, and the members also, they went out and planted over 30,000 trees, and they vary from anything from cypress to
Wow.
pine trees to anything you can think of, especially the eucalyptus tree, which
Now
is big
they're
out there.
gargantuan.
They are huge
Yes.
out there. And with the moist air coming off the Pacific and fog and how moist, they grew, boom, and they were up there.
Mm-hmm.
But in 1955, the club had the honor of hosting its first U.S. Open.
Right.
And Robert Trent Jones, he was the USGA golf course architect who he worked with the USGA. Excuse me. Of course, he arrived on the scene, like all USGA people. And, of course, the first thing he did was he started changing things.
Oh, gosh.
Which, of course, as you see, they changed things at Pinehurst, made
Yeah.
par 5s to par 4s and things. Well, he did the
Absolutely.
exact same thing when he got to Lakeside at the Olympic Club. So he prepared the course, and he lengthened it. He altered some pars, and he did put in a couple of bunkers here and there
Yeah,
also.
he toughened it up for him, I'm sure.
It was probably tough enough to begin with.
Yeah.
But of course, USGA wants to get
Exactly.
their mark on it, and they do a pretty good job of it to hold the scores around par. As you can see what happened.
And he's a good one to
you
do
know,
it.
Yeah. But in 1955, they did host an Open. It came down to Jim Fleck and to Ben Hogan. And of course, Jim Fleck was a very unknown golf professional, but he beat Ben Hogan
Yes, he did.
at that time. Then they had, when Billy Casper won, he won over Arnold Palmer. And that was in the 1966 Open.
That was a
So,
good one.
at the lake course. So
Wow.
the golf course started to get the reputation of hosting the upsets. And to this day, it's still named the graveyard of the great golfers.
Yeah.
Okay.
because the people who were expected to win just didn't win. The same thing occurred back in 1987 and 1988 when Scott Simpson in '87 won over Tom Watson, which was unheard of because that's when Tom Watson was really playing very well.
Peak.
And then again, Lee Jansen, he won over Payne Stewart in '88. So it held its reputation.
Yep.
It's quite interesting that this golf course holds as many opens as it has because we don't hear about that out here that much.
No, and they held them back to back
That one they
that
did.
year.
Mhm.
Okay.
And then during the 2012, which was very recent, Webb Simpson came from 4 strokes back, and no one even thought he was going to do anything.
That's where
Right.
Webb won his.
That's when he won his.
Okay.
It was 1 over par is what won it.
Yeah.
The club still remains a country club, but its members are very, very unique. They've brought in Olympic medals back to the club. They've brought in international medals back to the club. They've held U.S. Opens at the club. They've had international, national. So the club is not just golf, but it has some history that dates all the way back until
It's a
1860.
fun walk down those corridors, I'm sure.
If-
An
I bet it
interesting
is.
walk.
If you've ever seen the course, I was been very fortunate to be on the golf course. It is very, very lush because of the moisture in the air, and the grass just grows like it's so green, it's unbelievable. And the trees, as you had mentioned, have gotten extremely large. They had to kind of trim up and move some of them because the fairways were getting so narrow that it was hard to hit down the
I'll
fairways.
say that'll change your shots for sure.
All right, Tom, did you just say that you've played there too?
I've had the fortune of being played there.
I'm starting to think that we need to start asking Tom where he hasn't played versus where
I
he
don't think
has
there's a lot of
played.
stuff out there that Tom hasn't played. He's been all over.
That must have been phenomenal.
I used to live out that
I was
way.
going to
Okay.
say, being
that-
from California.
Yes, I'm
you-
from San Jose, so I got very, very lucky to be able to play Pebble Beach, Spyglass, and
Lot of
I
good
was even invited
stuff
to play
out
Cypress Point, which we do have a hole out there, and we'll talk about that one day too.
Good. Just
Well.
rub it in, Tom. It's okay. Just dig a little deeper.
Well, if
it's
you can
good.
say it,
The nice
That's
thing,
right.
do it.
That's right.
But the nice thing now, I can play all the holes myself at World Tour.
there you go.
And don't have to go very far.
Don't have to go far at all. That's the great part about it. So, World Tour located right here in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. I understand you've got some specials going on for
the
folks who want to
summertime-
play.
For the summertime, World Tour, we don't put on many specials,
Mm-hmm.
but World Tour for the summertime, we have something for 9 holes of golf in the afternoon. And we did it that way, so if the husband had to be on the beach with
Mm-hmm.
his family, he could maybe sneak away for an hour and a half and play 9 holes. And what we've done, we've taken it $35 to play 9 holes, and we've included a little lunch for him so he can come out and grab a hot dog and a drink and then go scurry around 9 holes and get back to the family.
That's great.
And sometimes if it is only 9 holes, women will even come out and do that with their
Oh, yeah.
husbands if
And they've got a
Kind of.
great restaurant there, too. I've been over there just for lunch myself, and just to go there and have lunch is not a bad thing either.
no. The view
And the
is
view is
beautiful.
perfect.
Yes.
I mean, you can't go wrong.
It's something that everyone, if they do come to Myrtle Beach, needs to see. It is history. If you enjoy history like I enjoy history, or want to see golf holes that maybe you not be able to play on, this is the place to come.
Right. So tell everybody the website and the phone number where we can get in touch with you.
I think
Yep, it's worldtourgolf.com, or excuse me, theworldtourgolf.com, and you can also click on the banner right on the right-hand side of the golf director. And I have not memorized the phone number, Tom. Do you have that?
I have not memorized it.
Okay,
I
so-
don't call it.
236-2000.
there you go.
843-236-2000 was the last time I called.
That's why
That
Dave's
was-
the golf director.
That was what I always called to book my tee times
There you
for
go.
my groups.
See, I made us look bad, and Dave saved us. That's
That's all
that's
right.
what he's here for.
That's what I'm here. It's one of the reasons why I'm here.
That's right. To make us look good, make us look bad. I guess no, I'm kidding. Make you look good.
Anything else you got to?
No, I think
Promote it,
we've.
Well, I appreciate you coming out.
Summertime is here, and we
I
got
love-
a
It
lot
is.
of people here at the beach, and a lot of people playing golf.
There you go. I love the course, and this edition of Tee It Up Grand Strand has been produced and broadcast by the Zeus Radio Network for thegolfdirector.com.